All right, our next speaker is Gordon Trustcott of Indigo Naturals. And Gordon was one of the first sort of expert foodies that Charlie and I went to for some insight and introductions to make things happen, because a lot of people weren't taking our calls. They hadn't heard of Copia, they didn't know who we were, Love Made What, it had absolutely no relevance to them, and nobody was returning a voicemail. But we talked to Gordon and we convinced him that we could make this cool thing happen, and he got some people to take our calls. And that's a huge reason why we're here tonight. He has incredible generosity and also incredible efficacy. A one-line email makes things happen. He's what, like E.F. Hutton or something? When he talks, people listen? I don't know. Anyway, I asked Gordon how he got started as a foodie, and he said, well, eating was a political act in the 70s. He came up at SFU in the days when people were starting food co-ops and starting to demand a different way to eat, and that sort of hippie lifestyle became hippie entrepreneurship. And he's got some very interesting stories to share tonight on the distribution side of food retailing. Gordon Trustcott.
Hello, everyone. I have to add that all the people I contacted did not show up this evening. I also want to preface my little talk with a comment to you all that you can never leave it too late to be an overnight sensation. That's me. I have to use glasses to read here, but it's I've spoke a lot in front of people. It's very difficult to talk about myself. I'm usually talking about other people. But it's true, my career started, if I could say, in the 70s at Simon Fraser, and I didn't know I was going to end up in the food business. I wasn't interested in working a lot back then. And I worked a lot and traveled, and then worked a lot and traveled. And two things happened to change to get me into my career where I am now. The first one was I read a book called Diet for a Small Planet, and I don't know if anyone's heard of that book by Francis Moore Lepay, and it was about connecting diet, politics, economics, and ecology. And that changed the way I ate. It got me involved in food co-ops at Simon Fraser, and in 1978 my son was born and I had to get a full-time job. So I ended up landing in the food business at a place called CRS Workers Co-op. And CRS was an interesting place because it was a pioneer in, it's now called Horizon Distributors, some of you may have heard of it. CRS was an idealistic group of people. A lot of draft dodgers from the US were involved because that was the era, and a lot of very alpha personalities with left-leaning tendencies. And CRS was brought in a lot of bulk organic. It was a pioneer in that area. That mantle has been taken over by Left Coast Naturals since in the area of bulk, but and Horizon has moved on to other things. But it was I was a buyer in that company, and I realized that being in a co-op was an interesting experience because you could play at being a capitalist without really having to risk any of your own capital. So I learned that I really had an affinity for the business, and I guess you could say, you know, when I prefaced the speech about being a late bloomer, that's what I am. I realized that I couldn't really work for anyone else. I was never really comfortable with that, but I didn't really have the courage to start my own business. I have a lot of respect for people who start something from scratch, do something because they have a vision and go with it. You have to be totally fearless to do that. I'm not fearless. So there I was at the age of 40, and I had to leave the co-op because the co-op was not going to, I left it for personal reasons, and I won't go into why. But there I was at the age of 40 without a job, and I sort of classified myself as a coward with attitude. And what do you do with that? So what I did was I'd been through a lot of strategic planning sessions, and I decided to do a little SWOT analysis on myself. So I went to Whistler, I booked a room. I didn't do anything else but write stuff on a piece of paper like we did in my business career before that. And I realized what I wanted to do was be successful in the food brokerage business. Now, a broker, if those of you who don't know what a broker is, I could take 8 minutes just to explain what we do. But essentially, we act as a sales and marketing service for small companies that can't afford their own sales forces and that want to get their products to market. So we manage everything from manufacturer to consumer. Our focus is on the distributor and the retailer, but we do work that way. I had worked with two lovely women at Horizon named Gail and Debbie, and Gail is a fearless entrepreneur and did start Gail Mountain Marketing. It became Indigo. Gail's over here right now. And Gail, Deb, and I had worked together, and those of you who have been around a little while know if you work with a group of people and a team, you develop an affinity for them. And we were great friends. We all had different skill set, and we were all having a lot of fun at what we did. And that's really the most important thing. And again, I can stress that not everybody's an entrepreneur. Not everybody has that fearlessness. There are some people who try to be an entrepreneur and really don't have the spirit, and there's other people that have the spirit but don't have the courage to get into it. I think the most important thing that we had was belief that we were going to succeed. There was no wrong decisions, nothing. Every decision we made was the right one. You don't look back. And that's our basic premise was that. It doesn't work with all businesses. You can't, make a glass bottle and try and sell it and invest $1 million in inventory and think you haven't made a mistake. That's, you have to look at things in the right context. But the most important thing for us was that we had a lot of fun, and we really, really believed in ourselves. And we had, again, I have to emphasize, you have to bring in people who are smarter than you, who can do something better than you. And the other thing that I did in my business, at one point, up until last year, there were 14 people in the company, 13 women and myself. So, guys, it just tells you something. If you're going to hire people, hire women and hire ex-nurses. Ex-nurses make the best employees. The other thing I want to say is that, where am I on this darn thing? The food business itself is, I learned really early on, it's from a ROI basis, return on investment, it's low risk, low return. You can succeed. It's a lot easier to make your way in the food business than it is in a high-tech business. Just look at the spikes in that industry. If you're going to manufacture hand trucks or get into something where you have huge investments. But the food business is all about passion, and that's what's great about this whole group, and that's what's great about living in Vancouver, because it's the heartland of natural foods, it's the heartland of organics, and it's got per capita far more companies that are invested in that area. And if we had twice or three times the population, it would be a lot better. But right now, unfortunately, the food business is controlled out of Toronto. Everybody's going to have to get tougher and meaner because of Walmart, Target, Loblaws, and our company is having to expand eastward because of that. So, what else did I have to say? I had a lot of jokes, but here's our company. Just to talk about our company, we operated with a few basic principles, and if Gail was up here, she would probably say something completely different, or might say exactly the same thing. We treat our employees and clients with the same respect that we expect ourselves. And as I already said, we surround ourselves with people who can do at least one thing better than we can. never make a decision based on purely financial reasons. In my career, I made one job change for financial reasons, and it was the only mistake I ever made, because I was getting an increase. I took a huge step backwards in salary. All three of us did.